And joining us now from Winnipeg is Naomi Hochman with her parents, Marissa and David. Welcome to the CJN Daily.
Thank you.
Hello.
And from Deerfield, Florida, Lois Lieff, hello. And from Palm Beach, Miriam Lieff, also hello. Welcome to the CJN Daily, all of you.
Thank you.
So let's start off with Miriam, because from what we know, and maybe you know, you were the first girl in Canada to have a bat mitzvah. Would you tell us about the date, the time, and did you know that you were the first one?
I knew that I was the first one in our city. I knew I was the first one in the conservative movement in our city because my father founded the synagogue. My bat mitzvah was in conjunction with an opening of a new building for Agudath Israel. It was their second home in Ottawa. It was in March of 1949. I was almost 14 because by the time the synagogue was opened, my father wanted to coordinate, so I was past my 13th birthday.
Did you want a bat mitzvah, Miriam? Like, how did it all come about?
I didn't even know what it was. I was quite well educated. I wasn't in any way afraid of what I was going to do. I complied, my father wanted me to do it, and for his synagogue, which was very important to him. And I did it. And how did I feel? When all the kids were sitting in the back row looking at me in my long white dress, I was totally embarrassed. I thought they were looking at me like I was some queer person doing this. But after, at the reception, they told me how amazing they thought that the whole thing was. And then I felt a lot better. I did the whole Friday night service plus a sermon.
We'll talk a bit about the details in a second. I'm going to let Lois talk about hers. You were supposed to be the second in Ottawa, but because so you tell us when your bat mitzvah was and what the circumstances was for yours.
Mine was April the 6th, 1951. It was Shabbat HaChodesh, which incidentally this year is going to be April the 1st, so that's pretty close. The second one was Dorothy Wexler, now Dorothy Tonchen. I think my father felt that if it was going to be Miriam and then me, it might be the two Lieff sisters and over and out. And he really wanted to establish this as a feature of Agudath Israel. The Wexlers had just moved from Montreal. Debbie was a Hebrew speaker. She was younger than I, but so she was the second. I believe hers was sometime in 1950. And I didn't wear a long white dress. I wore a pink dress and a pink hat, as I remember. And I followed the same procedure as Miriam, the Kabbalat Shabbat, Kiddush, and sermon.
So you also had to wait until you were not.
I was 12. Also almost 14, yes.
Now we're going to turn to Naomi in Winnipeg. So tell us your date. Tell us how you decided, did you want a bat mitzvah, and how did it all come about?
So my date is March 19th. So coming up pretty soon, 2 weeks from now. And yeah, I really wanted one. My brothers both had one, so it was really exciting, and I was looking forward to it because I remember how much fun my brothers had.
You're doing a bit differently than Miriam and Lois were able to do. Tell us what your whole, synagogue involvement is.
So I have the Saturday morning service, and I get to do my half Torah. I do Torah portions, blessings, the whole service basically.
You go to Jewish school in Winnipeg, right? The Hebrew day school. Are there lots of girls having bat mitzvahs and your friends and peers? Is something normal there?
Yeah, it's really normal. Actually, the week before my bat mitzvah, one of my best friends is having hers. And there are loads of girls in my grade and the grades above me that are having. So it's really common. It's as common as a guy having a bar mitzvah.
So turn back to Miriam. You said that when you were standing up there in your dress doing your bat mitzvah, it was a Friday night, just to make sure. Girls weren't allowed to do Saturday at that time. Was that ever a question of doing Saturday, or no, it wasn't done
No,
yet?
I couldn't have an aliyah. And I don't think women were on the bimah even. But that all started with the conservative synagogue that my father founded. And, or he and a few peers, I should say. So this was totally foreign. And they thought they would try a Friday night because it would be acceptable.
Miriam and Lois first, and then Naomi. Having a bat mitzvah, how did it shape you as the woman, the Jewish woman that you are today? Was there any influence that it still resonates in how you developed in your Judaism? Start with Miriam and then Lois.
I loved Hebrew school. Even though it was after school, it was twice a week and on Sunday. We many times went home after dark. And Mr. Gordon would make sure that we got home. I mean, he was absolutely wonderful. So I started off loving all of it and learned well. I think that perhaps in my class, Elaine Sloan and I knew more about the history and the language than any of the boys. We were quite good. So it wasn't, as I said, I followed my father's wishes. He was so excited to do this. I didn't even think to say I wouldn't do it, as of many other things he asked me to do. I went to synagogue with him every Shabbat for 7 years. I got a prize. So I think my shaping me started way back before the bat mitzvah.
And Lois, tell us a bit about you, how it shaped you and your Judaism as a Jewish woman being a bat mitzvah.
I think it was part of the path of my whole life, my upbringing, just as Miriam intimated in hers.
We're going to turn to Naomi
let's hear
because
Naomi.
You are the first girl in your family to have one, is what your parents told me. What does that look like? What does that mean to you?
I think it's really cool, because I started off in my family, and I know that after me, one of my cousins is sharing one with her brother, and it's really interesting for me to know that, and for my parents to tell me that. I found it really cool.
But your mom didn't have one, right? Tell us a bit about why.
Well, you know what? My parents asked me if I wanted one at that age, and being the first in my family to be asked that question, I said no. I wasn't interested in it at the time. And then as I was preparing my sons for their bar mitzvahs, I was very interested in the whole journey with them and the meaning behind that. And I did study with the rabbi as well, and I did do a Torah reading and my first aliyah. So that was really meaningful to me, and I did a Torah reading at each of their bar mitzvahs. So
there is such a thing as an adult bat mitzvah,
I have heard of that, but I was content to stand back and let my boys shine and let it be their moment. But I felt really privileged to be a part of it. It made it more special for me to be a part of their special day.
And having that aliyah is your bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
Well, technically. So you are a bat mitzvah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, if it's just getting to be 12, it's or 13 for boys, you are bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. There's no need for the schnapps, the herring, or even the DJ, right? It just happens.
But I felt it was kind of cool to have my bat mitzvah with my son at his bar mitzvah. That was kind of a cool thing.
How, if any way, are you going to talk about the anniversary and milestone of being the 100th anniversary? Let's hear a little bit.
Well, I'll definitely make sure I include it, because that is so cool. It really shows how much we've grown as a society.
Now, you are a lot different than the two pioneers who had theirs, because you were having a pandemic-ish bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
Was yours even delayed because of the social distancing? Can you talk a bit about the challenges?
Well, I was actually going to have mine in Israel and last year, but COVID hit right before I was going to start my classes, and the rabbi just completely cut off new classes, so I wasn't able to do that. And we couldn't travel, so we didn't go to Israel. But hopefully after my bat mitzvah, we'll get to go there and
they were juggling having to reschedule so many bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs as it was, and everything was so up in the air, including international travel. We just felt it was best to postpone it by a year and start when things were hopefully looking better. And as we were planning, we really didn't know. In our city, everything was on lockdown and at very limited capacity because of Omicron. So we didn't know if we were going to be doing a completely Zoom bat mitzvah, a half capacity bat mitzvah. We had no idea. So we were just going with our best guess. And our invitations said dancing, hopefully, for the evening party. We didn't know. Looks like our mask mandate will be lifted here for Naomi's bat mitzvah, but our synagogue is being very careful still, so they will still keep masks for the service. So yeah, it's interesting to see how you have to change with the times.
Right. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been actually very impressive to see what the shul has done. And actually, I will give credit to Marissa. Like, it's been amazing. Coordinating both the learning for the Torah portions and Shaarey and everything, and doing it all by Zoom, where it traditionally has been in person, and having to change a whole platform, how people learn. Naomi's been incredibly adaptive. Like, it's incredible. And then planning an event where you don't know what the rules are going to be. Like, Marissa's been amazing. I mean, trying to be as plastic as possible and adapting to whatever changes happen. We're just very happy that everyone seems to have navigated through this pandemic safely, and we can celebrate a big simcha together in 2 weeks. It's actually pretty awesome. It's a nice way to start a breaking of a pandemic, with the bat mitzvah.
Exactly.
But you're going to have to chant with the mask on. Is that how it's going to be?
I don't think she will need to wear the mask on the bimah, but I think everybody who's seated will be wearing masks.
There've been service changes. They've definitely changed how they are breaking people apart so that you're not chanting near anybody else. People who are giving the aliyahs, except for like giving the aliyahs aside from family, will be separate from Naomi. There's being responsible, social distancing. So I really think it's quite admirable and quite impressive.
Now, Lois and Miriam, they're talking about dancing maybe. Did you guys have like a party, with the DJ and, the whole photo booths like normally people have? What was your celebrations like? First, Lois, then Miriam.
It was the Friday night. There was a dessert kiddush after the service, and that was it. I didn't have a party. My friends were invited.
Miriam, what did you do for yours?
It was an oneg, and I would say it was a pretty lavish oneg. There was a lot of pastries. It was tea, coffee, and our friends were there too. I don't even know if we got presents. Did we get presents, Snooky? I don't even know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I got a present for your bat mitzvah from Harry Lakin, because I was the little sister and he didn't want me to feel left out.
That was beautiful.
Did they throw candy in those days?
No.
Are they allowed to throw candy now because of COVID?
Yeah, they are.
They weren't, but I think they've said it can happen this time. So.
And are you going to be wearing a talit, Naomi?
I am.
Tell us about the talit.
I'm using my mom's talit, but after my bat mitzvah, my mom is going to make a talit for me as like a little.
I wove talit for her brothers.
Nice.
Our synagogue had a weaving program, and so I did order what I needed, and I'm going to weave hers as well for her.
And what about yours, Miriam and Lois? Did you get talit taught or no?
No.
Much later. We both went on to do Haftorahs and Torah readings as adults.
Right. My father bought me my first talis some many years later.
It wasn't a thing. Women weren't wearing them.
No.
I think, Naomi, that both my sister and I would love to have been doing what you're doing, because as we've gone through our life path, we've done this many times. My father was at my 65th birthday while I had an aliyah and did a haftorah also. I've done them in Palm Beach. I've done, we like to do it.
That's awesome.
I did one in Boca about 2 weeks ago on Zoom. There were some people in shul and some people in their condos or at home, and but it's quite normal. But Dad was pushing for towards the inclusion of women in all facets of synagogue life, and not just, in a secondary role.
Mhm.
We should have the same education the boys had.
We
And
went
here-
longer. The boys
Yes.
stopped after their bar mitzvahs, and we went till we went to university.
Well, I think it's wonderful. You guys basically your experiences were historic, but you paved the way for all the future bat mitzvot, and for the fact that they can take for granted that they're going to have one or can have one and can do everything.
Oh,
that they-
taking for granted is wonderful.